10 or 20 years ago, we used to say that the commercial and trading relationship was the ballast that kept the ship afloat when bilateral relations got difficult. Well, right now, the ship is leaking, the ballast is starting to disappear. We're in rocky seas, and I really think that we're in trouble. Things are more difficult than ever. I think the phase one deal was one of the most disappointing agreements in U.S.-China relations, and I say that because according to the Peterson Institute, here in Washington, China promised to purchase some $200 billion beyond its purchases in 2017 and did not make even a single dollar of purchases to satisfy that commitment. And that was even before Russia invaded Ukraine, which has strained U.S.-China relations even further. If China were to violate the Western sanctions or even to give military goods to Russia, I think that could change the economic relationship for a very long time.
I think that's
Fortunately, we do not have any evidence that's the case.
Right. I think everybody is looking at that. But if you listen to what the people in the street had to say to our reporter, Owen Fairclough, during his story, it seemed that all the China bashing on the political trail, they would trade if they had lower prices. Let's take a look at what unfolded Wednesday, the news on the tariff exclusions. Is this about U.S. steep inflation or an effort to mend ties?
I think this is about several things. I think, first of all, it is about businessmen and consumers who have been asking for the tariffs to be reduced. It's also about the trading relationship and the findings in the Section 301 case that China's industrial policies discriminate against foreigners, and these tariffs are a continuation of that problem. There are political issues because Congress is involved and they want to see reduced tariffs. And also, from a political bilateral perspective, this is all a recognition that China did not live up to that phase one deal. And then to get to the inflation point, our Treasury Secretary has said that reducing tariffs would help mitigate inflation. But in this case, we're talking about 350 product lines out of tens of thousands and tariffs on $350 billion worth of goods. So I don't think it's that significant in that sense.
Now, you mentioned the phase one trade deal. Let's pick up on that because the U.S. was adamant that China is not living up to its end of that bargain. Now, China blames COVID and other international challenges. What is the current state of this phase one, and how critical is it for these two largest economies on Earth to work this out now?
Well, I would quibble with China on the COVID front. I mean, the Chinese press has made much of how China has done so well in the face of COVID and how China was the only in 2020. So China wants to have it both ways about COVID. But in terms of phase one, the purchase agreements were a complete failure for reasons that I've already described. There were, however, a basket of other agreements dealing with things like intellectual property, with agriculture, with the financial sector, and there's been a mixed picture there that still continues on, and those commitments still live on. So I think there are discussions that are continuing on that. And I think that there is some hope that the Chinese might deliver on some of those purchases, especially in areas where they really need to purchase goods, like in the agricultural sector, for example.
Exactly. Let's look at the tariffs that do remain. Walk us through the reason that these tariffs simply do remain there. Is this punishment, or is this a way for the Biden administration to use as a leverage tool with Chinese leaders and something for Biden to say, look, I'm staying tough on China?
Well, I think all three of those reasons probably apply in this case. There was a Section 301 case, and China discriminates through various acts, policies, and practices with regard to technology transfer, IPR, and innovation. And these tariffs were to respond to that. Catherine Tai said specifically, this is a bargaining chip, as you and it's just not acceptable for the second largest economy in the world to just not live up to any of its promise with regard to those purchase commitments. That is not how major powers, that's not great power relations, as the Chinese would like to say. So there's a real problem there that needs to be addressed.
Okay.